Setting the stage for both of our conversations tonight, one of them starting in a short while. I want us to listen to this clip by the Leader of Majority in the National Assembly, Amos Kimunya, who is joining me in just under a minute, vowing to resign if they lost in the Rurii by-election. Take a listen.
The majority leader wa kiama kia Jubilee, ati Jubilee ni haga kuena giti thini wa Nyandarua. Toni no gekire atia no resignire.
Leader of Majority, thank you for making time for Crossfire tonight. Why haven't you resigned? You lost not only in Rurii, in Juja, in Bonchari. Big losses there.
Well, Sophia, I think, well, greetings from Kiritem. But in terms of, I spent the whole day here consulting with my people, doing my projects. And obviously, one of the decisions we had to make is are the people to be very going to be held responsible for losses in Rurii. And hence, as far as they're concerned, we know the Rurii issue, lots of local dynamics. And hence, I don't even need to take any action. They appreciate what was going on. And basically, it's not time for any blame game in terms of what went right or did not go right. I think the first thing is to accept that the people of Rurii and the people of Bonchari and the people of Juja made a decision. And we respect that decision for whatever reason. And that we as Jubilee, the main Jubilee, because you know, I'm emphasizing there's a Jubilee, the main Jubilee party, because then there's a splinter part of Jubilee, which is the UDA, which, as you know, is a reconfiguration of one of the coalition partners, PDR. So it is a fight in between within the Jubilee house. And obviously people decided to, in Rurii, for example, decided to go for the UDA candidate instead of the Jubilee main candidate for several reasons, which have nothing to do with the strength of UDA or the weakness of Jubilee.
Honorable Kimunya, you said that earlier, what you've just repeated now, that you needed to consult the people, that resigning would require public participation. But I tend to disagree. I think it's a matter of principle. If you say you will resign when you lose, by all means you should, because to say it's a matter of principle, you did not consult those people when you announced you would resign. Now that you have lost that by-election, by principle, shouldn't you resign and not politic about that pronouncement?
It's not politicking about it, Sophia. Basically, what I'll say is that as leader of majority, I would actually be quite embarrassed if we would lose. And it's a kind of decision that one could even lead one to be pushed to a resignation for the loss. But on the other hand, I think I was not the chief campaigner. I was not the one in charge of those elections. It's in a different constituency. I only went there for, when needed to give backup. And but basically, I was using that politically to persuade the people to see the bigger picture. That yes, the late Maria, who occupied that seat, was a Jubilee candidate, and it would not be good for the people of Rurii to get themselves out of government into opposition willingly. It's an embarrassing thing.
So you are embarrassed?
Of course, I'm embarrassed with the loss. And I'm very embarrassed with what happened in Rurii. And it's a sad thing that people who are in government can actually go and vote to get themselves out of government by choice. It doesn't make sense. But it's like I said, it was not a vote for UDA or a vote against Jubilee. This was some local dynamics. And I think in that situation, people will probably to regret why they took that decision.
And yet, leader, you talk about no one should push you to resign. Nobody asked you to say that, and that you came in late into the race. You are not the chief campaigner. Again, nobody forced you to say that you would resign after they lost. But the thing, I've just listened to an earlier story by Emmanuel To. Again, you said that because UDA won, this is also a Jubilee win. Yet you have been expelling people from the Jubilee party who align themselves with UDA, the latest being Isaac Mwaura. So surely, what are you saying, sir?
I think Isaac Mwaura was not expelled from the party because of aligning himself with UDA. Because if that was the case, then we would have, even expelled the deputy president. But it's because of utterances he made that, and he went through a disciplinary process, went through the court process. So that is something that was unique to him, nothing to do with his affiliation to UDA. If affiliation to UDA was a criteria for expelling people, then the deputy president would have been expelled, plus a retinue of so many others who have openly campaigned for UDA. But like I said, UDA is still, until the coalition agreement leads to a separation, is still an integral part of the Jubilee coalition.
Leader, I think, Leader, you are being economical with the truth on that one, because the vice chair of your party has been on record right here. In fact, when he announced that Isaac Mwaura would be, expelled from the party, it was because of aligning with UDA, the same as Kositani, the former deputy SG, and the other senators who are fighting to remain within the party. And he has announced in the past eviction party loading for the deputy president. So perhaps the complications of removing the DP, but by all means, the party has been categorical about going separate ways with UDA. However, I will ask you this as we bring this to a close. Are you one of those people failing the president in that this was a resounding loss and a huge message to a ground that is shifting, but his men and women on the ground appear not to be aware or informing him that things are changing?
Well, Sophia, you know the success I've had in Parliament in terms of the passage of bills, in terms of the operation of Parliament, in terms of, from there, nobody has raised any complaint. And that is the standard I get measured on. In terms of an election in Bonchari, an election in Juja, an election in Rurii, I, as leader of majority, I don't lead that side of things. And I'm not saying other people do it. I feel the loss like everyone else. But I want to take responsibility for anything happening in Parliament. That's my domain. I'm leader of majority party in the National Assembly.
Yet you're on the ground campaigning.
I went to campaign because I would want to see Jubilee winning, right? But there are so many other dynamics, which obviously we all know about, in about all those positions, that cost the people to revolt against the party, or not necessarily by voting for another party, but by punishing us for either getting the wrong candidate or the uncoordination within the campaign, and basically, people are also, especially the youth, they feeling the pinch of the economic downturn, and it's a global phenomenon when you are in government and the economy has hit a downturn. People tend to believe or to blame the government of the day, and they will take actions to kind of punish the government, never mind what is the alternative. So there's so many dynamics in these by-elections, but for me, what I would like to appeal to Kenyan people is, let's not overanalyze the three by-elections. The people who voted will soon realize the mistake or that they made, or the wisdom of their choice. But we need to start moving on. We've learned lessons as Jubilee. We have some future elections coming, and I'm sure the performance then will have taken into account the lessons we learned from these three by-elections.
And I said finally, but one more before we go, you talked about punishing the government, but there are those who'd say it's an indictment on the government's leadership, from the president, yourself, the governor there, and all of those others that have been campaigning for this. But I'm reminded of when you said you'd rather die than resign. This resign is a word that you appear to use very lightly. And yet at the time it came back to haunt you. Do you not think that it makes you completely lose credibility even
never
trust.
came back to conflict because I never resigned, even that time. And I said at that point, I would rather die than resign, but I was prepared to step aside. And this is what I did.
If that, Charlie, that keep people.
And I was dedicated, and I was actually dedicated that I had done nothing wrong. Okay?
People did not return you.
My accuser came on KTN in their untold story on the Grand Regency and actually confessed that what he did was actually pure politics, right? So I knew I was right, and I still feel I was right, and I would never resign for something I've not done just because somebody has accused me and wants to be, to extort some money from me. So again, that's a story for another day, and I think it's already on your record in terms of what Honorable Halwale came actually on air to say what he did then and why he did it, and that I was actually not in the wrong. But on this particular Rurii issue, I think there are some statements you make politically to persuade the people, and but besides that, I also believe that in the totality of things, that UDA may have won, or people did not vote for Jubilee, not because of Jubilee Party, or not because of UDA, but because of the local dynamics.
All right.
The seat is still within the Jubilee coalition, which I lead in the House.
It's convenient, it appears, when UDA wins that it's all in one house. Leader of majority in the National Assembly, Amos Kimunya, thank you very much for making time for Crossfire. We are taking a break. When we return, my colleague Abi Agena in studio with the business news. Later on, it's one you don't want to miss. We have David Murathe, Rigathi Gachagua are with me live for our conversation tonight. Stay with us.